Aloha, spooky nerds. Welcome to the Paranormal Pop Culture Hour. I am Aaron Sagers, a journalist who explores the paranormal, creator of the entertainment site paranormalpopculture.com, host of the paranormal podcast Nightmarica, also true crime podcast, and occasionally, actually pretty much every week, you can see me on Paranormal Caught on Camera on Travel Channel. So in conjunction with the excellent folks at Den of Geek, we've been doing these weekly hour-long chats with colleagues and some of my friends in the paranormal community. And hopefully, if you like these, it's really up to you. We'll keep doing them. So tweet out your support. Let Den of Geek know on Facebook and all those good places. And I'm excited about the guest that I'm going to be bringing on in a moment. You guys, of course, know him as the lead investigator of the Holzer Files on Travel Channel, and it's heading into its second season, which premieres on October 29th. And they're going to have 13 one-hour episodes. And along with this gentleman, there is Shane Pittman, Cindy Kaza, Gabe Roth, and even Hans Holzer's daughter, Alexandra Holzer. And we're going to talk more about Hans Holzer himself, but in the premiere of the Holzer Files, this team follows the trail of legendary cases from this season from an elegant mansion in New York City, which is home to one of the world's most infamous hauntings, to the historic Maryland Tavern that hid John Wilkes Booth after he shot Abraham Lincoln. But let me tell you about Dave Schrader. Dave Schrader is a host of the long-running paranormal-themed talk radio show Darkness Radio, which is now in its 15th year. He's a lifelong experiencer of strange phenomena, from ghostly encounters to psychic premonitions, and even witnessing an identified flying craft and a large bipedal hairy man. So, and it wasn't me, I'm quite hairy, but I'm not even that large, so it couldn't have been me anyhow. So that has led to his journey to try and understand the supernatural, and that's really what brought him to this current position as the lead paranormal investigator on the Holzer Files. And I should also say he's a good friend of mine, and I always look forward to talking with him on the record and off the record. So my sincerest welcomes to Mr. Dave Schrader. Dave!
Hey, Aaron!
Hey, welcome to the Paranormal Pop Culture. That was a big wind up, and then there was the pitch, and here you are.
Hey, it's great to be here. Thank you for including me in on this. We've been buddies for a long time, and anything that you're a part of, I'm more than happy to join in on.
Hey, and same. I'm always excited to see you, and I'm super excited about the Holzer Files second season hitting right at the we're going to have Halloween season. And then we're going to have Holzer File season. So I think that's great. You're the transition for us. And speaking of that, before we get into the second season of the Holzer Files, Travel Channel has this Ghostober event. I got some swag in it. I know you got some. I saw your unboxing video. So before we get into the Holzer Files, just give me a glimpse at what Halloween was like for Dave Schrader as a little kid. What were your favorite Halloween memories? Were you a big trick-or-treater? Were you a scary movie guy, watching in front of the TV as a kid?
Well, scary movies weren't really part of my world because I was a jumpy kid. So that didn't happen until, I think it was high school. My dad woke me up. I remember this on Halloween night. He woke me up at 11, and he's like, come on, we're going to watch Night of the Living Dead. This is the only movie that ever scared me. And I'm like, why would you start off with that introduction? So we're going to watch it on WFLD, Channel 32 in Chicago, and we watched the midnight showing on Halloween. And I had school the next day, and he let me wake up and watch this movie. So that was the indoctrination, but I think it was in high school at that point. But growing up, man, trick-or-treating was – I'm so disappointed in today's youth because it's so passive, and they show up from 6 to 8, and we just don't have the same kind of turnaround that I had as a kid. And we got home from school, we ate dinner as early as we possibly could, grabbed our bags. I'd always have 2 pillowcases, one tucked in the back and one to carry. And then we would make our way to the furthest end of town we could get to so that at 6 o'clock we could turn around and start trick-or-treating our way back. So by the time we got back, I had 2 full bags of candy that my dad would go through just to make sure there were no razor blades or needles or poison injection spots. He would eat them himself. He was willing to take that bullet for me to make sure that none of the Snickers bars were ever tainted. And I don't know that they weren't, because I never got to eat one. My dad got them all. But, I was safe, I guess. That's the important thing.
It's true love. It's true love. Yeah, I mean, like, it was, as a kid, it was about canvassing the entire neighborhood. Yeah, I was a pillowcase trick-or-treater as well. And yeah, we didn't really live in a place where you would get too many of the baby, or what were they, snack size candy bars. We got a lot of like the big gummy bears and Twizzlers and maybe some M&Ms. So when you did get the candy bars, it was the golden hour. It was great.
Oh, and we always knew which houses had the big bars, and you had to get there first. So we might even skip parts of town to get to the house with the full-size Milky Ways or Three Musketeer bars or whatever we were hunting for. And we also knew the families that were dumb enough to just leave a bowl out on the honor system, and three of us would divvy it up and start our trek. So I'm sure we ruined many other people's Halloweens by getting to the bowl first, but hey, survival of the fittest.
You're a far more honorable person now. You would only take maybe 5 pieces of that candy.
Depends on what the candy is. I can't be held accountable if it's Three Musketeer bars.
Well, fine. I guess I'm going to come back to Halloween in a second, but I do want to know, we're not that far apart in age. Did you do your own makeup? Were you one of the kids that had like the plastic mask? I forget the name of the manufacturer, the mask with the rubber band or elastic strap on it that would always crack and break off and everything.
Yeah, I grew up in that. It was always like, if you were Batman, it was like a cheesy, very stiff plastic costume that said Batman in the middle, and then the plastic mask that was flat against your face and had that little string. So yeah, I grew up in that era. And then I also, I didn't do a lot with makeup. My mom would wrap me. My mom worked as a nurse, so she'd get gauze and wrap me in gauze, and I'd be the Mummy or Head Wound Harry or whatever cheap costume my family could send me out as. I didn't care. I just loved to get out there and get the food. But I'll tell you what, I remember having pretty decent weather, maybe a couple of rainy days when we did Halloween, but not many. Now, living in Minnesota, there have been we've had 3 feet of snow on the ground on Halloween. We've had some crap weather come Halloween, so it's not the same endearing childhood memories. But I still enjoy it. I love watching the kids come up to the door and handing out the candy, and I've got a lot of fond memories of Halloween and just watching the kids. And now that I've been on TV and with radio and been on Ghost Adventures, it's fun on the occasion when the family comes up and they recognize me at the door. Oh, it's Rick from Pawn Stars, and the costume was perfect. So yeah, I enjoy those little bits, but I love seeing the kids and watching my own kids.
And since you're like a legit TV star now, people start dressing as you. I personally, this year, if it's not too cold out, I'm going to go as sexy Dave Schrader as my costume. So, which is really just, a redundant phrase, because you're already a sexy man, Dave Schrader. All right, let's actually get into the show. And let me say, anyone in the comments, please, throw your questions out there and I'll get around to those. Okay, so Hans Holzer, we back in January, it was Hans's 100th birthday, and we spoke. This was actually for Den of Geek. Hans Holzer at 100, the first TV ghost hunter, and we talked a bit about why this man is so important and about the impact that he had on the paranormal community. But for people that are not aware of that are not aware of the Holzer name, just give us like a brief rundown of why we should care about Hans Holzer.
Listen, if you're interested in the supernatural and paranormal like you and I are, it's always good to know who came before us. Obviously, a lot of people were introduced to the paranormal through Jason and Grant, or Zach, Nick, and Aaron, or God forbid, the people of Most Haunted. So that was their indoctrination to the supernatural. For those of us that have had a fascination going back longer, D. Scott Rogo, Hans Holzer, Ed and Lorraine Warren, Dr. William Roll, all of these amazing groundbreakers. Now, some of them are very controversial. Some of them people are excited about and love dearly and can do no wrong. Some people see the complete opposite side of it. Same with Dr. Hans Holzer, but he was one of the first, and he was an innovator. As a matter of fact, I'm really excited because In season 2, not only do we get to re-examine his case files, we go back to his first case and we get a chance to re-examine that story. And we have some pretty exciting things that show up this season. But Dr. Holzer really kind of took it out of the darkness and drew it out and made it almost water cooler talk. People became fascinated by him, and you could see his passion. He would write for the TV show In Search Of, and would not only write, but he'd produce and kind of direct his segments where he would go to these famous haunted locations or historic sites and investigate. And he was so meticulous in detailing what he found. We have unparalleled access. We've got audio recordings, video recordings. We've got cassette recordings. We've got his handwritten notes on thousands of cases. So we really get the insights into some of these stories, and we see the parts that left him with more questions than answers. And those are some of the cases we get a chance to detail. This season, we also get to look at a few cases he was not able to get to, either because it was he was getting asked in his twilight years and just couldn't get out and travel as much, or because during the height of his popularity, everybody wanted Dr. Holzer to come out and investigate, so he couldn't make it to every case. So we get a chance to examine some of the cases that eluded him, that he was fascinated by, but might have been rejected at that time to get in, might not have been able to accept the invitation at the time, or just whatever reason couldn't get to those cases. So there's a really nice mixture of all of that we put into season 2.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, something that I always found fascinating about Holzer was that he really, not just his studies lended an air of legitimacy to the paranormal, but also the way he would present himself when he would go on talk shows. We've seen sort of different presentations of people in the paranormal, but he appeared, he presented himself as an academic, as a journalist, even when he would go out there. So it wasn't like some crackpot rambling on about ghosts when he would go out there. Do you think that really contributed to something of an acceptance of the paranormal?
I think so. And, in the face of whatever strange things took place, this guy remained remarkably calm. And he would work with mediums going to these locations. He would bring them in not knowing where they were or why they were there, and then kind of feed off of what the mediums told him. And some of these audio clips you've heard are chilling, as the voices channeling through these mediums would be crying out and wanting to know where their body is. And Dr. Holzer was always very calm and patient, and he would keep them from escalating and getting, you and I might get hysterical listening to, "My body, where's my body?" And you'd be like, "What the hell's going on?" Holzer kept it together. He dug deeper. He got the spirit to work with him. And I think that's what makes his story so compelling, because, again, it's not just one guy telling a story. He's got the background. He's got the audio, the video, the photographs to back up all of his stories. And it's pretty remarkable. The guy was truly an innovator in the field. And I don't think he's ever gotten the credit. And there are a lot of contemporaries like Lloyd Auerbach, Professor Auerbach, and William Roll, and of course, Ed and Lorraine Warren get a lot of that information. But even John Zaffis, I don't feel is truly appreciated for his contributions to the field of the paranormal. So when we got the chance to re-examine these case files, and I knew that his daughter Alexandra was along for the ride and wanted us to do this. I love Alex. She is she's just such a wonderful friend to me. As a matter of fact, I was just this year, as I'm going through memories on Facebook, I see 10 years ago, there's this post, "Oh, check out my friend's fan page I set up for him. He's great. I love him." And it was Alexandra Holzer set up my fan page on Facebook 10 years ago. And our friendship has been through all of this. And then to get a chance to work with her and investigate these cases and report back to her the findings, it's exciting, and it's dramatic at times too, because I get a chance to see when she's hearing her father's voice for the first time in a long time, or seeing the video of him doing things. You can watch her eyes well up, and the power of those moments, those emotional moments, make me and the team drive a little harder to really try to, step in. We can never be her father or what he was able to do, but we try to continue his journey in a respectful way. And I think we've really done a good job with that in the first 2 seasons of the show.
Well, the premiere episode is called Phantom Hand, and that takes viewers back to 1963 when the Todd family of Cleveland encountered a ghastly hand reaching towards them from their basement door in an apartment. And they nailed this door shut, and then this appendage pushed through, terrified the family for weeks. And then turns out that this might have been connected to more people in this Kingsbury Run area of Cleveland. And these people kept contacting Dr. Holzer. And now you guys are going back there and looking at this case that was not really closed. And without, putting spoilers out there, there might even be a connection to a killer. What can you tell us about the Phantom Hand, this premiere episode on October 29th on Travel Channel?
Well, I can tell you that. I can tell you this. It was really an exciting episode to get a chance to go in and investigate because, like you, I'm a fan of the paranormal. I'm a fan of true crime. And this case straddles both. This story that you told with this hand reaching up through this door in the floor sounds like the things of horror movies. And it obviously the people had to be crazy or hallucinating. Where the story gets really fascinating to me is that the police were called. The police showed up, saw the hand, and emptied rounds into the floor. That's right. They pulled out their guns and shot, and then refused to go down into the basement to see what it was they shot. They just said, we're not going to deal with this. You got to get out of here. And that's alarming. I mean, it's in the news. Yeah. It's part of the documentation. It was in the news at that time that they shot at it and then didn't go check on it. That's terrifying to me. And this family dealing with this, and not just this family, we find out because after his initial visit, people from that area began writing to Dr. Holzer, not knowing one another, not knowing what other people had dealt with in the neighborhood. And he received over a dozen letters with similar situations. And we go in and pick at a scab that's been left alone for a while, and we uncover some crazy stuff. Not everything makes the episodes, but there was a scene when I'm sitting there talking with one of the eyewitnesses, and we're at this location, and very distinctly you start hearing something moving around, and everybody's accounted for, and you could hear something walking, and we stopped, and we're like, just during the interview aspect, things are starting to happen. So it's a Hellraiser episode. There's a lot of cool stuff that we were able to uncover, hopefully give some answers to the family, and deal with what I think is one of the strangest cases and probably one of the most well-documented strange phenomena cases that have ever been put out there.
Well, additionally, you go to the old merchant house in my territory of New York City. You go to the Surratt Tavern in Clinton, Maryland, the bait ship Chandlery. I can't say that. Chandlery.
Yep.
Chandlery. Staten Island's historic conference house, Rockland County, New York, which is where Hans's first case took place. But with all of these locations for season 2, how does it differ from season 1?
Well, with each season, it's interesting. Season 1, we're kind of shaking loose the dust from these cases, and some people were reticent to let us in because they didn't know what we represented. They knew that Dr. Holzer might have been there, but they don't know who this new group of people were. So we were lucky enough that the people that did allow us in last season, that series gained a lot of momentum, and people could then go and see the episodes, and then they felt better about the way we handled the investigation, treating it more almost like a crime show, breaking down the evidence, breaking down the history, questioning different people, kind of turning the spotlight in a different effect. And the paranormal almost became, the evidence almost became secondary. And I think that's why we've gotten such great evidence in this season, Aaron. I don't mean to brag. This season blew me away. The evidence is out there. I mean, it is so amazing. We caught a couple of things last year that were astounding to me. This season blows the doors off of it and was really powerful to have things happen the way they did. And because of the success of last season, more people were willing to open their doors to us this season. And we got into some places like the Surratt Tavern, right? John Wilkes Booth assassinates the president, makes a hasty retreat. This is one of his stops along the way. And it's an amazing historic story. To go to the conference house where Benjamin Franklin stood in this house for 2 hours negotiating with Britain, trying to stop what was going on. And then the defiant moment when they said, listen, you come our way, we'll give you dukedom and different titles, lordships, and we'll make sure that you're safe. Otherwise, you're a dead man. Franklin said, well, have a good time with that. We're not going to shake it. We're going to stay right where we are, and give us liberty or give us death. And that was it. And I get to stand in that house where he had this historic meeting. And it's just being steeped in that type of history and being reminded of who came before us, the settlers here, and their stories with the Native Americans, with the original settlers, with the different history that's happened. We are literally investigating from the dawning of time in America, the spirits that are there, all the way to spirits that passed away only 40 years ago, 50 years ago.
Now, I'm excited to see this season, but I'm still kind of stuck a little bit on something from last season. And there's this reaction that you tend to have when people tell you that they have an amazing piece of footage, and you're all on board, at least me personally, but there's a little part of you that's always a little bit skeptical, even when it's a friend of yours that says, caught this crazy thing on camera. Now, I recall it was about this time last year when you were telling me about being shoved to the ground and even bitten, I believe, by something that was captured on camera. And I know you, I love you, but there's this moment where I'm like, okay, well, I want to believe Dave, but let's see what it's. This was a shocking piece of footage that then made it into the episode. And looking back on that, first off, are you okay? Is this something that still kind of impacts you? Because that was a hell of a moment, man. And you can clearly see this force push your body. There's no way that you could be that agile to pull off that move.
I think my feelings are hurt, but I understand where you're going with that.
So first off, are you okay? And is the impact of that kind of still with you?
The psychological impact, yes, because when it first happened at the Whaley House, that was our very first episode we filmed together. I wasn't sure how this was going to go down. And, having worked behind with the Ghost Adventures and kind of being a player in the grander scheme of things is different than being the lead investigator. And I wasn't sure how it was going to go, what was going to happen. And there were a lot of strange things that occurred. And when we heard, we're pushing the spirit, one of the daughters, the Whaley daughters, committed suicide by shooting herself. And we ask, are you the one that pushed her to commit suicide? And we audibly hear what sounds like a shotgun go off in the house. That was unbelievably disturbing. But then to play back the recording and keep taunting that ghost, all he keeps hearing is that recording over and over. Are you the one? Are you the one? Are you the one? Around the third time we played it back, boom, something just like a linebacker picking me up, chucks me into Shane, and I hit the ground. My first inclination was I just got the hell out of the house. Once I cleared my mind, because at first I thought literally one of the cameramen must have stumbled in the dark and tripped into me. And when I turned around and there was nobody there, my brain just froze. And I wanted to get the hell out of that house. And I went out and had to collect myself. And it would have been real easy to jump to the fact that it was a demon or something evil. And it took a lot of kind of calming myself, putting myself in the mindset of Dr. Holzer. What would he do? He's not going to run away frightened. He's going to collect himself and then go back into the fray to figure out what's going on. And so it left an indelible mark in me in the way that I look at the supernatural and the way we react to it and the way we introspectively kind of look at it through hindsight. Like I said, it would have been real easy at the moment to believe it was pure evil I'd just run into. But I think it was just a pissed off ghost who had been misunderstood and murdered at one point and really wanted his story told, but didn't want to be challenged. And so that was a real alarming moment for me. Being bitten on the arm when we were on the USS Constellation, again, I mean, I've got kids bite, and they when you're horsing around with them, they bite sometimes. So I'd been bitten before. I know what it felt like. And this thing clamped onto my forearm and wouldn't let go. And this was shortly after we'd seen what we thought was a young boy's shadow running around. But it was a minute I stopped giving him attention, and I started hearing footsteps above me and started turning my attention elsewhere, that it was like it bit me like it wanted my attention, and it didn't know how else to get it. So the investigations and the things that have happened to me have just forced me to rethink how I deal with the supernatural and how I should respectfully deal with the supernatural. So I'm always trying to keep myself in check with that aspect now. And there are a few holy beep moments in season 2. And this whole hashtag poor Shane nonsense has to stop, where everybody's so worried about Shane, Aaron, because I might send him to a dark basement. Let's see. He's felt something brush against him and grab his shoulder. I've been bitten. I've been shoved. And wait till you see what happens to me in season 2. I come out of it bloody in one episode. That's all I'm going to tell you. Was it the spirit world, or was it a big dumb oath? I'll leave it to the viewers to decide. But it definitely should be hashtag poor Dave, because I've taken a beating on this series that I did not expect to take. And like you sit back and you think, I love this guy. I don't want him to be a scammer. I don't want him to lie. I don't want him to cheat. Please don't let this be garbage. And I refused, Shane refused, Cindy refused to be a part of a show where we knew that this was going to be the storyline. And none of us would agree to do that. So I've been very cautious with the way we represent a lot of the evidence. Some of it we'll throw out, even if producers like it, because it's just not up to snuff. Some of it we're really kind of blown away by, that doesn't make the TV show, because although it's stunning and amazing artifact, it doesn't fit the rest of the story we're talking about. It's a different ghost who's not the story that we're tracking, but it leaves an opening for us to go back to that location and maybe follow that narrative and see what that spirit has to tell us. So it really has given me a new perspective to how a haunting progresses, and what is the best way to tackle an investigation is one story at a time.
Well, you have at least one person that hopes you stay upright. Judy said, she's hoping you don't get knocked down this time. But you know what, Judy, it makes for good TV. I'm just saying, I don't want you knocked around, but it does make for a memorable episode. Actually, you have another person that's looking out for you. Shane Pittman is saying hashtag poor Dave.
Thank you, Shane. I appreciate that. And that's a great thing too, is having a wonderful team around me, people that care. Shane and I have become like brothers when we're on the field working together, and we're able to lean on each other, because we can't have Cindy be involved in a lot of what we uncover, because we can't taint her findings. What she comes to us with has to be pure. It has to be hers, not what we've told her we're expecting, nothing along those lines. So it's great to have a guy, to have a friend there that I could bandy off of, and we could talk about what's going on and run ideas and calculations and how can we test this theory. And Shane's a great go-to for that. And Cindy, I got to tell you, as far as a medium, I'm still a skeptic when it comes to mediums. I've been knocked down by mediums. I've seen some unbelievable things happen, but I still question, where does the information come? With Cindy, I get that question, but I've learned to just give into the faith that she uncovers some remarkable bits that I think I know the story inside and out. And then she throws me a curveball, and I'm thinking, that's in none of the records, nothing that I've been able to uncover. And then I dig in, or I have Gabe Roth dig into it for me a little deeper, and we find that she's right. And there is a part of the story we've missed all along, and she just unearthed it for us. And that's really powerful, to trust and have that kind of faith in the people you surround yourself with. From Alexandra's insights to her father and his investigations, to Gabe's research into the case files and stimulating some interest from the family or the business owners that have these historic sites. And then just knowing that the team around you is really working for one common goal. And, I think we've disagreed 2 or 3 times out of now 23 episodes. But it's never been a heated disagreement. It's respectful and, okay, well, that's your concept on it. I don't see it that way. Let's see where this shakes out. And we play it out. And our producers, to their credit, allow us to have our own thoughts and push each other a little bit to try to get to that next level.
The notion of the paranormal is all based on theory. We're not dealing with rules. Nobody's come back with the handbook for the recently departed that I know of. And with that, I think you and I are pretty aligned. I may have some of my theories. You have your own theories. But still, some of those theories are kind of entrenched in us. We have to stay open-minded, but they can become very personal. Do you find at all that there are conflicting theories about the paranormal, about what's going on in sort of the big picture sense, that sometimes stirs up disagreement or controversy on your team?
Hey, man, there are disagreements within my own head at times over the paranormal, because what are we really dealing with? Are these stories that have taken on a life of their own, like a thought form, because so many people have spun this yarn for so long that we've created this scar that appears to be real? Is it in my best Den of Geek high nerddom? Is it timey-wimey, wibbly-wobbly stuff that's creating the paranormal? Are we just bumping into alternate timelines and parallel universes, and what we think is dead people is really just Earth 2.0, and once in a while we rub against it and we can see through that veil? So I don't know. And I think to try to pigeonhole it and say there's one aspect taking place is where the problem lies. To say you have the definitive answer is incorrect, but we can try to narrow it down to what we believe this one fits into. What is the particular niche that this haunting might actually exist in? And it's always mind-altering and expansive to give us this opportunity to re-examine these stories from a different perspective, from a 21st century view and 21st century technology that were not afforded to Dr. Holzer when he was out there investigating.
Yeah, and I love that you did the Doctor Who reference. Obviously, we're both Whovians, and it's funny because a lot of people talk about the paranormal most typically in connection with the horror genre, but for me, I view it more as like science fiction. Weirdly, it fits more in that, and it kind of scratches that comic book itch for me as well. So I'm with you on parallel universes, alternate dimensions. I think that's kind of close to what we're dealing with. But looking back on season 1, have you thought about? I mean, has the Schrader files, have they not been entirely closed for you? Or are you looking back on some of these cases thinking, maybe I missed something? Maybe there's something I wish I need to go back and take another look at. I wish I'd focus more on your own questions and doubts.
No, I'm pretty perfect the way I am. And I feel I put my definitive Darkness Radio rubber stamp on every case. No, of course.
So,
going back and watching the episodes, I think, why didn't I ask this question? Why didn't I take this experiencer, this historian down one more route? Was there something else to find? But that's the exciting aspect of this is, although Dr. Holzer has thousands of files, some of these are definitely worth revisiting. He would revisit some of these files. And, one of the ones we go to this year is Mystery Hill, which he visited numerous times because he was so fascinated with the history and trying to understand where this location came from, who built it, and why, and what are the paranormal ramifications of this. So there are elements in the first season of episodes I would love to go back and investigate and employ some new technology or new techniques to see if we could get an even better response. And with that said, though, if I could tell you one thing that I found really interesting, Aaron, is that what the viewer finds intriguing. Viewers were fascinated by the fact I got knocked down and bit. Viewers were fascinated by the fact that every time at the Morris Jumel Mansion something strange was about to happen, those spiders would start dropping from the ceiling by Shane or bouncing back up. There was all this talk about all of these different elements of storylines. And then in the one episode where we actually capture this phantom, woman in white, her ghostly apparition starts to swirl and appear and then moves up the stairs, and two independent laser grids power off simultaneously. Independent meaning they were not together. They're not powered by the same switch. They were battery operated and both shut down at the same time. We captured the spirit on film. Very few people talk about that. They don't talk about that one. So it always intrigues me. What about the story? What about the evidence is most intriguing to the viewer? So, I never dismiss any of the aspects of this because I don't know what it is that's going to connect with certain people in the audience and how they kind of perceive the paranormal.
And I want to bring up Jackie right here, who says she likes to think of the paranormal as an astral party line, and I actually really like that view of it. It's just everybody into the pool, all sorts of craziness happening all at once. And Jackie's joining us from Hawaii, so aloha, Jackie. Thanks for being here.
Aloha.
Aloha. And I think it's easy to kind of view Hans Holzer as this paranormal investigator, this icon, this giant, but he was a flesh and blood man. And Alexander, he had a family, he had a wife. Have you gained insight into Hans Holzer the man, the flawed human that was just going about life, getting dinner, ordering takeout? I know he was a vegan before vegans were cool. Like, he was ahead of the curve on that. But have you gained insight into him as a man?
As much as you can from the writings and recordings and Alexander's stories. I think this man was haunted by not having a full grasp. He had a concept of what was going on. And I think what kept him driving was always that elusive notion of, but what does this mean? And once we've uncovered this chapter in the book, why is it that once we scrape away that first layer, does something else rise to the top? How many layers are here? And in some of the writings and recordings, you can hear that frustration in his voice. Never something that stopped him down, but something that encouraged him to continue his journey and take it seriously and listen to everybody's claims with the same acceptance you would of your own child telling you something that was important to them. He wasn't dismissive or rude. He would challenge you, but he was always respectful in the way that he did it. So, sure, he was human. Sure, he made mistakes. We all do. But he was also going off the best information he could get at that time. And when he's going into haunted locations and the people running them, the historians are telling him ABC is the history, and they're the historians. He's taking it for their word. Only now do we hear people, Holzer was wrong about this, Holzer was wrong about that. Well, he wasn't wrong. He went off of the information that was available to him. He didn't have Google. He didn't have newspapers.com that would allow him to go even further back in this. And what's really fascinating is in so many cases where people have tried to call Dr. Holzer out, when you read his handwritten notes or you hear his recordings, you hear him questioning the findings himself. He's like, I've got to go on what we know. And what we know is X, Y, Z. So it seems that would then denote this is what we're dealing with. But I'm not quite sure I can definitively say that, and this case needs to be revisited. So he never fully gave it a stamp. He always believed that this is just one element of the case that you're picking at. There's more going on behind the scenes. So I really respect that aspect of him, and that he would be confident in his decisions. He would be confident in the things that he said. But again, he was going off the confidence of taking for the word of people he believed were trying to, were telling him the truth.
And Shane's over on Facebook pointing out that people can rewatch that Howard Dickinson case from season 1 if they want to see you get pushed. And just for fun, they can rewind and play it again. Fast forward.
Howard Dickinson is where the ghost goes up the stairs. Whaley House is where I get pushed.
Oh.
So, yeah, Howard Dickinson, I can never remember the episode, so thank you for chiming in, Shane. But, yeah, go watch season 1, revisit the episodes, because I think it'll reset the template for you of what's going on, and you'll see that we amp up the stakes. I'm excited in season 2 because we involve different things. I don't want to give too much away, but we do some different things in season 2 with our investigations involving people, technology, and some forbidden items that people will probably shake their head at when they hear us introduce it. But I hope that when they leave that episode, they're going to be excited with the new way that we involve these pieces of ghost hunting equipment into our investigation.
Well, without spoiling anything, Darren wants to know, what is your favorite piece of device at the present time?
My favorite tool is Shane.
Shane's your favorite tool?
Yeah, he's a tool that I use when I investigate. No, he's, I think equipment-wise, I really love recorders. This year, I got the elusive DR60, Panasonic DR60 recorder.
Right.
This is considered the holy grail, and I'll tell you a cool story here. This is considered the holy grail for paranormal investigators. Now, there's a lot of speculation. This recorder came out. It was one of the very first handheld audio recorders. It was one of the first that really kind of was used out in the market. It didn't even have a removable memory. Okay, so boy, the wind is suddenly whipping up. I don't know if you can hear that through there, but all of a sudden it's like storming here. So it's a perfect dark and stormy night. I reached out to a friend of mine who had one, and I said, Kim, can I borrow your DR60? And she's like, yeah, sure. I'm not really investigating much anymore. I would like it back. And I said, as soon as the season's over. She goes, no, you keep it for the run of Holzer Files. As long as you're on the air, you can use this recorder. And I got the recorder, and I remember the first time I got it, and Shane can attest to this. So I'm in my hotel room before the investigations, before anything. I break it out. I've read all the speculative jargon about it. Oh, it's recording its own interior sounds, which then would tell you anytime you record with it, you should hear this artifact, this whatever, because that should always be a part of it. Or it's getting recordings or radio frequencies. And I'm like, all right, let me test this. So I do an EVP session in my hotel room, which is always against my rules. I never investigate where I sleep because I don't want to know if something's there. But I break it open and I ask a question, and I got an audible response, an intelligent audible response. And I stop and I call Shane. I'm like, you better come to my room. And I explain the DR60 to him. And he goes, yeah, I've heard it. I play it for him. And he goes, get out of here. No, you're screwing around with me. You did that. And I'm like, no, watch. So I turn it back on. He's watching it run. And I start asking questions. I'm like, can you say my name? Can you say Dave Schrader? And clear as day, you just hear this thing start laughing. It's not radio frequency. It's not internal sounds. You just hear this come over my recorder. Shane and I both stopped. We're like, what the hell? So I play it for our directors, and Rob Saffey, our director and showrunner, he worked on Paranormal Lockdown and Ghost Adventures and all of this. He's like, I'm really on the fence about that piece of equipment, but if you want to try it. And I played the audio for him. He's like, all right. And we took it to some of the haunted places, and I would get nothing. And then all of a sudden, when we got something, it made that even more impactful to me because it wasn't recording something everywhere we went. And some of the responses I got this season were absolutely blood-curdling, bone-chilling, freaky responses where I played them back for my camera guy, and I hold it up, and his response, you just see him holding the camera, and all of a sudden he's like, and you hear this clear voice come through and say something. And the recorder was so cool. As I'm sitting there like this, and I'm Zoom talking with my daughter, and I'm in my hotel room, and I have the recorder, and I play it for her. She goes, get out of here, Dad. Really? I'm like, yeah. I said, you want to do an EVP session? She goes, okay, sure. And I said, okay, so we can see each other like you and I can see each other. And I hold up the recorder, and I say, all right, honey, you ask the questions. And I hit the button, and she goes, I don't know, Dad. I don't know what to ask. And then she pauses and then starts asking questions. And we rewind it, and I play it back, and you hear her go, Dad, I don't know what to ask. And very clearly you hear this voice go, a question. And we both were like, what? So it was so cool, this piece of equipment. So I'm really excited for people to see that. But I love audio recorders because it's the quick. I'm part of the MTV generation. I want it, and I want it now. And that is one of the quickest responsive pieces. I like the SLS camera. I like some of the other equipment that we employ, and we've got new pieces to play with this year. But the recorder has always been the best to me because I feel like in that moment I'm communicating. In that moment I'm getting an immediate response or playback, and it gives me a sense of what it is we're dealing with.
Yeah, and I tend to like the digital audio recorders as well. Actually, the analog, the microcassette tapes are
Right.
fun. But I do want to say, I'm not going to call them out, but we have a mutual friend that has 2 of the DR60s. And yeah, I know. And for those of you, this really is sort of this sought after piece of equipment. I think on eBay it goes for between 2,000 and 2,600 for one of these things. So it is definitely, it's a prized possession. Let me ask you, just as far as that goes, like, it is ultimately a piece of equipment, right? Like, has anybody that you know have tried to reverse engineer this thing and just create their own DR60? You know, we have some engineer friends out there.
I don't know. That's an interesting question, and I'm not trying to be rude looking off screen as I'm talking. I was hoping to find that video of my daughter's EVP I could play for you while we were doing this. I don't know. I guess it'd be intriguing to ask somebody like Bill Chappell or Gary Galt to re-examine these pieces of equipment, see what about them was perhaps internally flawed and would allow for this type of activity to be recorded. But again, like you said, they're extremely expensive. You crack one of those suckers open and it doesn't work anymore. Where does that leave you? So I don't want to give up my recorder right now. I really enjoy it. Gosh dang it. I wish I could find the video. It was really cool. And I had my daughter actually make a little video of it so you could verbally see the question and then the response. So it was pretty neat. But yeah, I'd be interested to see if there is somebody that could figure out what made that work so well and what can we do to access that again.
Well, you especially don't want to do it because it's not yours, Dave. You have to give it back at the end of the run. Hopefully many seasons from now.
Right. My hope is that run's going to last 20, 30 seasons and we'll be good to go.
Or they might just forget that they loaned it out to you.
Yeah, that's the hopes, right? Is that'll be what'll actually take place. I did find it. Let me see here real quick, Aaron.
Okay.
I'm going to try to play it. I don't know how well this will convey, but I'll hold it up and push this and see if the audience can hear it along with us. Pardon my fingerprinty screen. So you get that? Did you hear it? Yeah.
Oh gosh, that's crystal.
So a question is the immediate response. I love this recorder now. I hope that the season goes forever so I can continue playing with it and see what else we get. But I will not record in my own home because I don't want to know what's here.
Yeah, I know. And after so many years, 15 years of doing Darkness Radio, at least, you might have brought home, and all the events, you may have brought home something.
Hey, real quickly, aside from Holzer Files, like you've mentioned, I host Darkness Radio and True Crime Tuesday. We've moved over to Stitcher and Stitcher Premium for our programming. So for your fans here on Den of Geek, if you go to Stitcher Premium and sign up for True Crime Tuesday, normally $5 a month, it gives you access to True Crime Tuesday, all of our past episodes, and all of our Darkness Radio Darchives. So 15 years worth of radio shows will be made available there commercial free. And if you use the checkout code Darkness Radio, 2 separate words, Darkness Radio, you're going to get super deep dive prices on getting that. Normally it's like $5 a month. I think by the time you're done with it, it goes to like $220 a month if you subscribe. And that gives you access not only to Darkness Radio and True Crime Tuesday commercial free, but all the content on Stitcher Premium. So Darkness Radio, we release brand new episodes every Wednesday and Thursday of the paranormal. Every Tuesday is True Crime Tuesday, where we delve into strange and unusual true crimes from around the world. So Darkness Radio, and you can get all this information at darknessradio.com as well.
And is that correct right there, Dave?
Yes, I believe so. That's right. Thank you very much. I think it's STITCHER, I believe. Stitcher.
Oh, it is. Yes. Well, we'll fix that.
Thank you. Yeah, but Stitcher.com/premium, and then Darkness Radio will be the code. You want to look up Darkness Radio and then punch in that code to subscribe, or True Crime Tuesday. But you'll be able to find it there. And, we're now going in our 15th year. I'd love to continue to grow the show. So if you love the paranormal, you love what you've seen on the Holzer Files, or you're just new to me and you'd like to know more, there is a free version of our show on Stitcher as well. It just has commercials. So you can find the free version there. And if you go ask your Alexa, your Echo, your Amazon, whatever, it will play. Just say out loud. See, here's the fun thing, right? Hey, Google, play Darkness Radio's newest podcast episode.
Okay, playing the latest episode of Darkness Radio, Supernatural News, Parashare, Paranormal Playthings Edition on Google Podcasts.
See?
Just so you know, you can...
It's easier than ever to find our show and be able to listen to it. You don't even have to look it up. You could be so lazy, just call out to whatever service and they'll find the new episode for you.
You're a brave man calling into your Alexa on a live stream. You never know what you're going to get with that. But at the very least, with your name, you do get the gold mine of, I'm sorry, Dave, I can't do that.
That's right. I'm sorry, Dave. I can't do that. Hal, put on the newest episode of Darkness Radio. I'm sorry, Dave.
Well, before we let you go, we're going to wind down in a minute. There's a lot of great questions. Robin asked this question. I'm not going to hold you to it, but a lot of people, for everybody out there that doesn't know, Dave used to do the Darkness events and was really a trailblazer in the paranormal tourism space. And I was fortunate to be at a lot of those events. So I, for one, hope one day that we start seeing some of those reunions. I'm not going to put you on the spot to respond unless you want to.
I'll tell you what. I don't even know if I'm supposed to mention this, but one of the episodes we got to shoot this season was aboard the Queen Mary, which is devoid of life. This is the first time it's been closed down to the public since it was docked there in 1967.
Yeah.
And activity is amped up. We were the first paranormal team to get a chance to go in and fully investigate the ship. And while I was there, I told Shane, walking through those halls again, being a part of that place, I said, you know what? When COVID lifts and things are back to normal, I'm coming back with Darkness Radio events, and we're going to do an event at the Queen Mary. So that is my goal, that hopefully in 2021, I will be back with Darkness Radio big scale events where you can come see some of your favorite paranormal investigators from TV, get a chance to investigate some of the most historic haunts in the United States and around the world along with me. So that is my solemn promise to all of you. Darkness Radio events will be back. Believe it or not, Aaron, this year marks 8 years since the last big official Darkness Radio event at the Stanley Hotel. Was our last one because it was called the End of Days Conference, because December 21st, 2012, the world was supposed to end, and all that ended was Twinkies. They took Twinkies away from us, and that was the end of the world for me. But we're back. We're going to do it. I'm going to do it. I miss doing it. I miss the people. I miss the atmosphere, the camaraderie, and the family that we created out on the road.
Yeah. Well, hey, okay. So we just had some breaking news of sorts on this, and that's great. I'm super happy. Now I'm really hoping that Godzilla doesn't show up and destroy us for the remainder of 2020. Well, okay, I would like to see Godzilla. I just don't want the destruction part of it.
But if you're going to go out, that's a hell of a way to go out, right?
It's a good way to go out. Godzilla might arrive before the Kong versus Godzilla movie.
That's true at this point.
Well, and just a couple final questions here. Well, for me, from the paranormal pop culture side of things, what are you seeing out there in the genre that you like? And, obviously right now, Haunting of Bly Manor is getting a lot of chatter. But what do you see in paranormal entertainment that you like, both scripted and then even the unscripted stuff? And any trends that you wish you were seeing?
I'm excited to see the next Conjuring movie. I really like what Blumhouse has done with that Conjuring universe. There's been a couple of duds in the series, but Blumhouse, man, they have their fingers on the pulse of what's scary. And there's 2 new movies. You can watch them on Amazon Prime from the Blumhouse crew. Last week they released The Lie and The Black Box. And Tim and I both gave those extremely high marks. I enjoyed them. They were great suspense thrillers. This week, they just released 2 new movies, Nocturne and The Evil Eye. I enjoyed Evil Eye. I gave it about 3.5 stars out of 5. So I think Blumhouse is really good at what they do. I think they've really got a great connection to scary and what freaks us out. There's some new Stephen King stuff down the pipeline. And I'll tell you what, I just started watching the Swamp Thing, season 1. That series really underrated. People don't talk about it. It's a great horror series. There are ghosts and mythical creatures and well-acted, dark, brooding, creepy stuff. And now I guess CW has picked up season 2, and it had record-breaking viewership. I hope this thing blows up because it's a good, scary thriller show, and I think people are going to dig it.
Yeah, we could talk offline about that, but I agree. I screened it and wrote about it actually for Den of Geek. And first off, the visual effects, I think they did a really nice job with it. There's actually some really good horror beats with it, and it ran into trouble as a production, and sadly didn't get its full due. But yeah, I'm super excited that other people are checking it out. And also, Dave, like, how can people find you? Actually, no, wait, hold on. Sidetrack. You mentioned the Conjuring movies. What Hans Holzer movie would you use to launch a Holzer universe?
Well, The Phantom Hand is a crazy ass case. Like I said, it's got a mixture of serial killer, hauntings, and an entire area that is basked in the blood of this horrific storyline. So that to me would be a great one. But there are so many. I mean, so many really creepy stories. Some that are gothically beautiful. You know, we do one this season that really is intriguing, and it is such deeply rooted feelers into the families that have lived there that some never wanted to leave. Some plan on coming back someday. And we capture some great stuff on that episode. That's all I can say. But there's a couple of them that just jump to mind. And we haven't even gotten into all of his case files yet. I mean, this is 13 case files that we did this season, 10 last season. The guy's got over 1,000 and 124 books on the paranormal. We do run into a bit of the issue that some of the places don't exist anymore. But there's a lot of great stories. The Ocean-Born Mary case would be a great story to investigate as well, because it's got so many weird twists and turns. That was like a supernatural thriller just to film the episode. So those are some great ones. I hope somebody does pick up on that. And Blum, if you're listening, Jason Blum, get on the Holzer files and start knocking out movies, because I guarantee you we have some stuff that will set people's teeth on edge and freak them the hell out when they get to hear these stories that we share with them this season.
Well, he's a big listener of the Paranormal Pop Culture Hour, so
good.
Yeah, and that's actually, yeah, I know.
Jason, I mean Mr. Blum.
Well, we'll DM after all this. I'll connect you, and that's actually a great tee up for Holzer Files. Returns October 29th on Travel Channel, and 13 episodes in the new season, in season 2, with this man right here, Mr. Dave Schrader. And do not miss out on Darkness Radio. I even occasionally pop in there, and I'm always happy to do it. And actually, before we go, where else can people find you if they want to reach out? This chat will remain live, so if we didn't get to your question, we'll try to get to it later, or I'll try to pop in there. But aside from that, Dave, where can people find you?
Darknessradio.com has links to all of our social media, and you can find me. I do my best to answer all of my emails and messages as best I can. So you can reach out to me that way. And if I can make one key important message to your viewers right now, if you love your TV shows that you watch and you think you're doing them a favor by saving them all and then powerhousing through them all in a binge at the end of the season, you're actually killing your favorite shows. If you like a show, not just Holzer Files, any show, watching it live is always the best for ratings, which keeps your shows on the air. If you DVR it, watch it within the first 24 to 48 hours, because those ratings are the other key ratings that are important. And I tell people, if you've got it and you know you can't watch it in the first 48 hours, turn it on, go take a shower. You know you're going to come back to it and watch it again another date, but let it air, let it be counted, and that could help save your favorite shows in the future, no matter what it is you watch. If you're like me, you sit there and I've watched every season, I DVR them and watch them at the end, and then wonder why they've been canceled when they're so good. It's because we do that, and we are unfortunately training ourselves in ways to kill our favorite TV series because we're not watching them live or within 48 hours of their actual airing. So that's just a little tip from me to you on ways to save your favorite shows.
Definitely like a little bit of a secret that not enough people talk about, but it is, you got to watch the shows. It still matters. You got to actually watch to keep them around.
Yeah.
So, Dave, thank you so much, buddy. It's great seeing you. I hope to see you in person soon. And aside from that, congrats on another season of the Holzer Files and for the continued success of Darkness Radio. And man, looking forward to seeing you back out there with Darkness events in 2021. I'm going to ask you to hang out backstage for a second. And Dave, happy Halloween, buddy.
Happy Halloween to you and all the great viewers here at Den of Geek. Thank you very much.
All right, guys. Well, that is the show. Thank you for joining the Paranormal Pop Culture Hour with me, with Aaron Sagers. And you know what? Dave Schrader, hell of a guy. This is really something I love about doing this show with Den of Geek is not only do I get to talk to excellent people who are doing really impressive things in the paranormal space, I get to hang out with my buddies. And Dave certainly is one of the guys that welcomed me into the paranormal years ago on a professional level, and I'm still thanking him for it. Now, guys, let me say next week is going to be another great episode. Who do we have on but Rhys Darby? He's the actor and comedian. You know him from Jumanji, Flight of the Conchords, and he is also, and of course, What We Do in the Shadows. And he also is a big paranormal nerd, and he has the podcast, The Cryptid Factor. So we're going to be talking about aliens, ghosts, and, of course, cryptids with him. Thank you for joining. Give me a follow on Twitter, Instagram, all over the place. I'm at Aaron Sagers. Check out paranormalpopculture.com. Subscribe to the Nightmarica podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts. And hey, I launched a thing this week on Patreon. All the cool kids are doing it, so I did it. Patreon.com/Aaron Sagers, and it is Geeky Creepy Tiki Travels. It's a mouthful, I know, but there's the code for it. Patreon.com/Aaron Sagers. We talk tiki, we talk geeky stuff, we talk spooky stuff, and we talk about travel stuff. And that said, stay spooky, my friends, and stay nerdy, and happy Halloween. I'll see you back here next week.